everyone. Thank you for joining us. Good evening. It's good morning to some of you. It's an international presentation. That's great. Such a great to see everyone. So today's presentation is all about the gut and the brain connection. This topic has gained a lot of attention in the recent years. And my name is Trigalo, and I have Jenn Gonzalez with me. Now, before we start, we are muting everyone. So if you are unmuted for any reason, please do so and mute yourself. And if you have any questions during the presentation, please add them to the chat. We will also open the microphones at the very end of the presentation for Q&A section. All right, so let's see. Okay, so before we dive in, I will start with a quick introduction. I'm Ricky. I'm the founder and owner of Life-Changing Nutrition, and I always have had passion to natural health, and I believe that the body can heal itself if we just give him the opportunity. And after 25 years in high tech, I was an executive in high tech for many years. I just noticed that my life philosophy is not aligned with how I practice life. Just again, mute people. Thank you. So I found out that I'm just not myself. I was very tired. I had fatigue. I couldn't sleep. I was in jet lag all the time, traveling. I just couldn't get myself back to balance. I started to feel low and sick, and I just decided that I make a change in my life. I went to a nutrition study. First, I went to nutrition school, and I also studied functional medicine. And it just at some point, I just decided to stop this and just to change my career. So after 25 years, a bit more, I decided I changed my career, and I have my clinic today. I help people with chronic illness and autoimmune disease, and I'm specialized in thyroid dysfunction. And today I have Jenn Gonzalez with me. Jenn, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. It's so lovely to see so many new and familiar faces on here to learn about such an important topic. Again, my name is Jenn Gonzalez. I'm a nutrition and lifestyle transformation coach. I'm based here in the Bay Area. And very similar to Ricky, I was also working in the tech industry, and my health was at an all-time low. I found myself chronically stressed with a lot of hormonal and gut imbalances. And as a result, I was chronically fatigued and depressed. And so that was the turning point for me, where I decided to pursue nutrition to also heal myself, and resorted to functional medicine as well. And it was through my personal transformation that I became so inspired to help other women. And through my coaching program, Vida Vitality, I now help other women, especially high achieving women who are tired of feeling a hot mess, so that way they can regain their energy and reduce stress, so they can be able to have their energy to do whatever they love most in life. So I'm so excited to get started, and I'll pass it back to you, Ricky.
Thank you, Jenn. All right, so I mentioned a concept, functional medicine, and before I start with today's topic, I want to introduce what functional medicine is. So when we're looking at the traditional medicine is very good in saving life. Traditional medicine is very good in surgeries, replacing organs, replacing systems, diagnosing diseases, and keeping you alive. However, traditional medicine is mostly treating the symptoms and doesn't really help us to stop the disease development and the progression. When functional medicine is all about finding the root cause, we are using functional labs such as stool tests, such as saliva. We are looking for healing opportunities. We are looking to bring the body back to balance. And we are doing that with the 5 R's. So first of all, we remove all the stressors, and stressors can be external stressors, such as finance, or such as stress at work, stress in the environment, or internal stressors. We first of all removing the stressors, removing everything that doesn't do well with our body. We replace those, or we replace the food that doesn't do good for our body with healthy food. And we are bringing the body, we give the body an opportunity to really immune itself and also to repair the organs. So as I said, we are bringing the body back to balance. The whole concept, once the body is in balance, we give him the opportunity to heal itself, because the body always changes the cells, and we want to bring the cells back to balance. And that's what functional medicine is all about. Now, when we are, when we are talking about the gut-brain connection, and the gut and the brain are connected, or communicated, and communicate and interface with each other between in two ways, which means that it's not a one-way relationship. We know that the brain is the control panel. We understand that the brain secretes hormones. The brain really has all the central nervous system. However, even the gut can affect the brain, and we will talk about it today. So this communication is facilitated by the nervous system, the hormones, and the gut microbiome. And today we will zoom into the gut microbiome and see how the microbiome can interfere with the brain, how it can change the brain and the behavior. So the gut and brain connection plays a crucial role in regulating various of bodily functions, and those including the digestion, the metabolism, the immune functions, and even the mental health. And the imbalances in the gut microbiome or dysfunction of the gut-brain axis can lead into a variety of health issues, and those includes digestive disorders, mental health disorders, and even neuro diseases. So therefore, it's very important to understand the gut-brain connection and to see how it can be leveraged in order to improve the overall health and the wellness. And in this presentation, we will provide an overview on the gut-brain connection. We will include the anatomy, so you understand how exactly these two systems talks with each other, how they communicate, and we'll discuss all the communication pathways. And we'll also show how the gut bacteria living in our gut can impact our mental health. At the very end, we'll discuss some strategies for improving the gut and the mental health. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so let's take a closer look at the anatomy of the gut-brain connection. As I mentioned before, the gut and the brain are connected through several pathways, and those including the nervous system, the hormones, and the gut microbiome. Now, the first one is the digestive system. The digestive system is responsible, as we all know, for breaking down the food, for absorbing the nutrients, and also to eliminate the waste. It includes organs such as the mouth, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, large intestine, and even the liver, the pancreas, and the gallbladder. They're all part of the GI tract. The second one is the nervous system, and we can see the nervous system is divided into several systems. The very first one is the central nervous system, the CNS. The second is the peripheral nervous system, the PNS. Well, the CNS consists with the brain and the spinal cord, while the PNS, the peripheral nervous system, is basically includes all the nerves that connect between the CNS and the rest of the body. There is also the autonomic nervous system, the ANS, which controls all the involuntary functions, such as the digestion and the heart rate. And the ANS is part of the PNS. Now, there is one key component of the gut-brain connection, which is the vagus nerve. If we look at the right side picture, this is the nerve. The vagus nerve is the yellow line that it's in fact the longest nerve in the body, and it's connecting between the brainstem down to the gut. The vagus nerve is involved in regulating various functions, and those also including the digestive system. The enteric nervous system is also known as a second brain. You probably use this term. I'm sorry. Can we just mute everyone? So the enteric nervous system is the second brain. We're familiar with this term. Recently, we hear about it more and more, that the gut is actually our second brain. But in fact, it's a complex network of over 100 million nerve cells that align in the GI tract, which is the gastrointestinal tract. And it controls the digestive system and also the communication between the digestive system with the central nervous system. And that's everything goes through the vagus nerve. Now, the last one, which is all about the microbiome, is the microbiome itself. And this is a collection of all microorganisms, including the bacteria, the viruses, the fungus, all those which live in our gut. And those play a crucial role in regulating the bodily functions. Those also includes the digestion, because the microbiomes are the ones which eating the food, they digest the food for us, also including the metabolism and even the immune functions. So in fact, in recent research, we see that the gut microbiome can influence even the brain and our behavior. And I will show several examples of those today. Okay, so the gut microbiome plays a key role in the communication between the gut and the brain, and they also produce some compounds that can impact the brain function and behavior. So let's see some of the examples. The first one is the gut microbiome can produce serotonin. The serotonin are the ones that regulates mood and appetite. They also produce GABA, and the GABA is another hormone that has calming effects on the brain. So those microbiomes, specific microbiome, if they are not exist or if they don't have enough community, we will not produce enough serotonin, or we will not produce enough GABA. And that's part of our behavior eventually, which will be translate into our behavior. Another example, if you have sugar craving and you hate yourself for not being able to stop eating sweets, I advise you to stop blaming yourself. There are specific bacteria in our gut that if they don't exist, or if we don't have enough of them in our gut, they leave real estate space in our gut for bad bacteria overgrowth, and those crave sugar. So as we eat more sugar, we basically feed these bacteria. We enlarge this community over the flora bacteria. So what happens is that this is not our craving, it's their craving. And as we feed them, they just become large, more and more, and we are having more and more addiction, what we call addiction to sugar, but it's in fact those bacteria's addiction. Now, the best way to change this is basically fast for sugar for 21 days. And the reason it's 21 days is because 21 days is the life cycle of this bacteria. Very interesting. Okay, so just to summarize that, the impact of the gut-brain connection on our mental health is, first of all, the anxiety and depression. Its impact, the anxiety and depression, and I will give specific examples with specific bacteria. It's also impact how we respond to stress, how we are handling stress in our daily tasks. We also how we sleep, what quality it impact the sleep quality. Also learning disabilities. Many times we see kids with learning disabilities. We go to the doctor and they give our kids medications for ADHD, but in fact, it's related to gut imbalance. Autism spectrum disorders, it's not that it will prevent autism necessarily, but it will definitely impact the autism as in the spectrum. So we can, if we balance the gut bacteria, or if we check our bacteria in the gut, we definitely can improve those. And lastly is the eating disorder. And I gave an example on the sugar craving, but even obesity even salt craving. It's also part of the microbiome imbalance. All right, so let's take a few examples of those. The very first one is Candida. If you're a woman, you probably heard that. Maybe you even suffered from Candida overgrowth in the urine tract. And most cases, we find it in the urine. However, Candida can be even found in our stool, in our intestinal. And it's most likely will come after a long usage of antibiotics. Now, I want to talk about antibiotics. Most cases, when you go to the doctor, traditional doctor, for any bacteria, they will give you antibiotics. And antibiotics, when we take them, it's like taking a bomb. And if you have two terrorists in a town, we just put a huge bomb on the entire town. Maybe we'll cut these two terrorists, but will definitely damage the entire town, will definitely impact other people, civilians. So we don't want to do that. Sometimes when we go with antibiotics for a long time, and I see that many times in my clinic, it's not that the person doesn't have bad bacteria, because the person used too much of antibiotics. Later on, it will leave real estate to bad bacteria overgrowth, and one of them is the Candida. Another source for Candida overgrowth is high intake of sugar or starches, too much of bread, too much of cheese, too much of corn. Now, if we're going to the doctor and if we want to check that, or if we want to check what the symptoms related to the Candida, the gut symptoms are fatigue, nausea, gas, bloating, any kind of pain in the abdominal, even diarrhea or constipation. And most likely we will see malabsorption. Malabsorption meaning that you will see pieces of food in the stool. It means that the food is not being absorbed by the body. However, Candida not only impacts the gut, it also impacts the brain, and this is with mood disorders such as depression, anxiety, brain fog, fatigue, inability to concentrate, even headaches, and up to migraines. So these are all related to Candida. Let's take a look on another one, Giardia. Now, Giardia is bacteria. It's a pathogen. It's a bacteria. When it's overgrowth, it can cause polyps. And if we don't take care of the polyps, it may develop into cancer in the colon, or cancer in the intestine, in the small intestine, depends where it grows. We often see Giardia in water sources such as lake or ponds. So people swim, they swallow the water, or if you go to the gym and the gym doesn't change the filter very often, it can grow there too. Also, we see it with animals. So if the animals will not get impacted from the bacteria, but the animals, they lick themselves anywhere. And then if you kiss your dog, or if you let your cat to lick you, and then you don't wash your hands before you eat, you might get it. And we see it very commonly with people who work with kids, because they replace diapers, they don't wash their hands, they touch their faces, and then they may get it. Now, if you're looking at the symptoms related to the gut, it can cause diarrhea, bloating, cramps, all kind of malabsorption, very similar to Candida. But if we're looking at the brain symptoms, it causes sleep disorders, it causes irritability, anxiety, depression. All of those comes from certain bacteria, and this is just another example. Let's take a look at H. pylori. So H. pylori, or in some places we call it Helicobacter. H. pylori, I wrote that it's almost about 50% of the world population have it, but in fact, in my clinic, I've seen hundreds of tests, and I see about 70%. I can say 70% of the population may have H. pylori in some way, and it transfers from mouth to mouth. So it means that by kissing, or if you're using the same toothbrush, People know H. pylori by the heartburn or reflux or any pain in the upper abdominal, but it also causes bloating or indigestion. It interferes with the food digestion. If we're looking at the unrelated gut symptoms, it causes headaches, acne, depression, mood swings. Now, if you take your daughter to your doctor and you show her the doctor to all the acne or headache or depression, they will not even think to check for H. pylori. But I specifically work with several teenagers who came to me because of acne and depression, and I found very high growth of H. pylori. Now, H. pylori is not only that we can see it in the stool. We also see that it gives an opportunity to other bacteria, and in this case, this example is Streptococcus spp. It also causes the reason it causes malabsorption is basically because it reduces the enzymes, and in this case, this enzyme is the enzyme that breaks down the carbs. Now, if you go to your doctor and you complain about heartburn or reflux, and they will give you the blowing test that you drink something and you blow into a bag, and they will find out that you have the H. pylori overgrowth, most likely you will get antibiotics cocktail. Now, you get antibiotics cocktail. In many cases, the body has a resistance to these cocktails. Now, again, first of all, antibiotics, it's like taking the bomb and throw it on a town and everything is killed. So after that, you not only kill the H. pylori, but you also kill the flora bacteria, your army, the bacteria that they need to be there in order to protect your body. In these cases, what happens is that in some cases, if the body has resistance to the antibiotics, you will kill the entire commensal bacteria. You will kill the entire flora bacteria, but not necessarily you will kill the H. pylori, and maybe you will even develop inflammation in the gut. So that's another thing that we need to take under consideration. Now, so I mentioned commensal bacteria or flora bacteria. I want to show a few things here. This example is flora bacteria. So in flora bacteria, and this is just a snapshot on some of them. In flora bacteria, we want them to be in the same, on the green side, on balance. In this case, we see that some of them are not in good balance. However, what is more important here is that we have enough from them. So if, for example, the flora bacteria, we want to see a forest, in this case, what we see is a desert, which means that we don't have enough of our army to protect against other bacteria. And if we don't have enough of flora bacteria, what happens, we give an opportunity to opportunistic bacteria to overgrow, and those include Candida, which is yeast, or other bacteria like Vibrio or other all kinds of bacteria. Okay, last, before we move into the strategy, in stool test, we can see how our digestion work, which means that how we break down food, how our immune response is, and if we have all kinds of blood in the stool, etc. So in this case, for example, we see this is how we break down fat and how we break down carbs, how our immunity is, even if we have antibodies to gluten in this case, and overall our immunity. So these are another very important factors that we want to see as we bring the body back to balance through microbiome. Because sometimes, even though we have H. pylori, or even if we have Candida and we treat those, if we don't have a strong immune system, if we don't have a strong enough enzymes in our body, then basically, even if we treat those bacteria, they will come back. because our immunity is not strong enough. So this is another area that we want to take care of even before we start treating our body. Okay, so now that we saw some of the examples, I will pass the presentation to Jenn to give some of the strategies how to heal the gut microbiome in order to heal our mental health. Back to you, Jenn.
Thank you, Ricky. All right, everyone. So I know this might seem very overwhelming, especially if you are constantly experiencing a lot of the symptoms that come from gut health dysfunction. But the good news is that our body has the capacity to heal when we support it properly with what it needs. Now, when it comes to healing the gut, everybody is different. There's nuances when it comes to healing. So there's not a one-size-fits-all approach, but the approach that I'm going to share with you has been extensively researched, and it's the functional medicine approach that Ricky introduced at the beginning of the presentation that follows a 5R healing method. And this is the same method that we work to support all of our clients through. And so the very first step in that process is to remove all of the stressors that we are encountering as much as possible. Now, stress, as Ricky mentioned, can come from a lot of different ways, but the primary source of stress is through foods. And there are many different foods that can trigger an inflammatory response, and it's going to be different for everyone. So that's why the very first step that we do when we work with our clients is we have them take a sensitivity test, because that sensitivity test will give us a clear indicator as to what foods are exactly causing them inflammation and stress. And I want to mention that oftentimes these foods might be foods that you might not even think of, even the ones that are marketed as superfoods. All of these can potentially directly affect your gut. So it's really important that we get specific into what foods are triggering that stress inflammatory response. And it's very similar to putting out a fire, right? If you are not taking off the logs that are causing your fire to stay lit, it's not going to go away. So that's why it's really important to really address these foods. And some of the most common ones that can cause inflammation are processed meats, dairy, refined sugar. And also some factors that we might not even think of, such as drinking coffee on an empty stomach. I know I was guilty of that. Antibiotics, birth controls, even over-the-counter NSAIDs, such as aspirin or ibuprofen, that are supposed to be painkillers. But if you consistently have these too often, it will directly damage the gut lining. So it's really important that you're mindful of how often you're consuming these products. And I encourage you that you don't remove everything all at once, because even though that's going to be helping the body, if you do it all at once, it's going to cause more stress on the body. So I encourage you to gradually remove things, maybe once a week, introduce a new food, so that way your body has time to naturally adjust to these changes that you're making. And then another area that's super important to be mindful of is the environmental stressors that we also experience, because these can directly affect our guts. Our skin is our largest organ. So there's a lot of toxins in our environment that oftentimes we unfortunately can't avoid. But as much as possible, try to be mindful of the products that you're consuming, especially beauty products, cleaning products, or any household items that are filled with all of these toxins that will directly affect your gut health. So it's really important that you take inventory of all of these things. And also really important are the physical stressors that we might not even realize, such as skipping meals or over-exercising. All these little things add up to your stress load that will directly affect your gut. Also, emotional and mental stress, right? Our body does not know the difference between real or perceived stress. So as much as possible, trying to reframe your perspective of how we perceive that stress. Now, oftentimes we can avoid when our body goes through a stress response. So when we do find ourselves going through that stress response, I strongly recommend connecting with your body, because the stress is affecting your body as well. So telling yourself to calm down or relax oftentimes doesn't really help. So it's really important that you connect with your body through somatic approaches, connecting with your 5 senses. Here are a few meditations that I strongly recommend. You could take a screenshot and do some YouTube meditations, and those are really helpful to help regulate your nervous system, especially when you are already in that stress response. All right, so the second phase is we are going to repair the gut lining. Now that we've decluttered your gut and removed all of the things that are causing it stress, the next step that we can do is repair the gut lining. And when our gut is going through that healing process, the most beneficial thing that you can do is support it through liquids, because that is mostly how our body best absorbs nutrients. And so one easy way that you can do that is by consuming bone broth. And bone broth is a powerhouse of nutrients that really helps soothe the gut lining. It's packed with minerals, amino acids, and especially collagen and gelatin, which are the building blocks of your gut lining. So this will really help repair any damaged cells that you might have in the gut. Now, I want to mention that there are so many different types of bone broths out in the market. So I encourage you to be mindful of which one you are purchasing, because oftentimes they might have extra hormones or additives that might be more damaging to the gut. So I put here on the slide some really helpful brands that I always recommend to my clients. Some of the most helpful and high quality are Kettle and Fire, Bonafide, and Epic brands. And so you can drink these collagen either in a tea form, or you can even combine it with some veggies in a soup, and together you will add more nutritional value. And you can even cook it with rice or quinoa instead of water, for example. And this will not only enhance the nutrients, but it will give you more protein, which again is really going to help repair that gut lining. All right, so the last step, now that we have gone through the process of repairing the gut lining, it's also really important that we prioritize repairing digestion, right? Because this is where your gut is able to absorb all of the nutrients that you're providing it with. So if your digestion is broken down, it's not going to be able to absorb anything. So it's really important that we also focus on repairing your digestive system. And some ways that you can do that are by first improving your enzyme production. And your enzymes are what break down your food and your nutrients. So some simple ways that you can do that are by purchasing a high quality supplement. And I encourage you that you only take it up to 28 days, because then your body starts to not produce those enzymes naturally. And so it'll kind of start to break down those enzymes. So a simple way that you can easily repair and activate those digestive enzymes are by simply chewing your food. I know that sounds like a very simple step, but it's often very overlooked, especially in this fast-paced lifestyle that we live in. So make sure that you are chewing your food thoroughly and until you get it to like an applesauce consistency. And this will really help activate those enzymes, because your saliva is one of the only places that your body produces those enzymes. So that'll help prepare and break down the food so your gut can be able to properly absorb it. And some other helpful ways to naturally activate those enzymes are by consuming digestive bitters. And you can easily consume these in teas, or you can even make them in tinctures in liquid form. So you can easily put a few drops into water and drink that maybe an hour before each meal. And this will help activate the enzymes and also support stomach acid production. So this will help to digest your food better. All right, and then the last step, and probably the most important step that oftentimes gets overlooked as well, is making sure that your body is in the right state, because it's not just what you're eating, but also how you're eating that's just as important. So it's important that you are in a parasympathetic state. So this is the state where your body is able to fully digest and relax. So in order to help your body get into that parasympathetic state, it's really important that before each meal, you take a moment to ground yourself, avoid as much as possible any electronics or anything that might stimulate that stress response as much as possible, and also incorporate mindful eating practices. And this will help kick in the parasympathetic response, which will help you digest your food a lot more. All right, and once we have gone through the process of eliminating all of the stressors in our guts, and we've gone through the process of repairing our gut lining, the very last step is we are going to now work on rebuilding that gut microbiome bacteria. Like Ricky was mentioning earlier, that army, so we got to strengthen them up. So some helpful ways that you can do that are by consuming probiotic rich foods. Now, I know that the probiotic supplements have become a lot of very mainstream, but I want to encourage you that first you resort to whole foods, only because a lot of those probiotics on the market, they don't have a lot of the strains of bacteria that your body needs to repopulate. And oftentimes a lot of these supplements aren't very high quality. And so your stomach especially is very acidic. So by the time these probiotics reach your gut lining, most of the bacteria has already been dead. So it's really important that we help produce natural probiotics in your body. So some simple ways that you can do that are by consuming probiotic rich foods. Some of my favorite examples are sauerkraut, kimchi, or Greek yogurt. All of these are packed with a lot of probiotics that will help build up that good bacteria. Now, it's also important that we feed that good bacteria to grow, right? It doesn't just, it's not just about getting a probiotic supplement and calling it a day. It's really important that we cultivate that bacteria. So one of the ways that we can do that is by building up our prebiotics. So also encourage you to make sure that you are consuming a lot of prebiotic rich foods to make sure that you're building up the good bacteria. And then lastly, fiber. Fiber is also very important. It's really what's going to help build up that gut bacteria and also help with cleaning out any toxins that are in your underlying gut lining, and it'll really help stimulate that gut health. And some other important nutrients are zinc and quercetin. So these are really helpful to, again, not only repair the gut lining, but really help with that bacteria growth. So that was the end of my portion, and now I'm going to pass it back to Ricky.
Thank you, Jenn. Wow, so many great examples, great strategies. I just want to add something about the bacteria. So there is such a thing, too much of flora bacteria. Too much of flora bacteria we get, especially as Jenn mentioned, with probiotics supplements. If you get too much of the wrong ones that you actually don't really need, they may cause you constipation. So if you are taking probiotics from the drugstore or from Costco, some people get those, and you get constipation, the first step that I would advise you is just to stop those. Now we will. First of all, you can always contact us if you have any questions. We will open the microphone. And so if you have any questions, this is the time. Also, this is our first presentation out of series. Our next presentation will be all about hormones imbalances. So I will add a survey, and if you want to join the next one, please sign up, and we will add you to the list. It will also be great to get your feedback about this presentation, so we will always improve ourselves. So feel free to mute yourself, asking questions. Jenny, is there any question on the chat? We are ready to answer those.
Yeah,
I have a question, Ricky.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I've heard or known for a long time that antibiotics can, of course, in certain cases, it makes sense to take them if it's, your life is on the line, but otherwise I understand the harm that they can cause. I was wondering, bringing up a subject, maybe not as polite, but when you get to the age that you get colonoscopies every 5 years or so, the preparation that they do for colonoscopies is basically this situation to kind of flush away your entire gut with this fluid that they have you drink. My question is, do you know how does that affect the gut microbiome?
Yeah, it can affect the microbiome, definitely. I would recommend to use some of the strategies that Jenn mentioned before to enlarge or to restore the microbiome afterwards. Also, coffee enema is a good way to restore the microbiome after those few weeks later.
What is that? Sorry, what?
Coffee enema. It will, it's very good for the microbiome restore. It will move the blood. It will help the body to restore itself. It will bring new blood and new energy to the intestine. But in general, just to get to eat kimchi, to drink bone broth, to get fermented food to restore the microbiome. This is definitely important to do that afterward. Yeah, good question.
Suzanne is asking, what are some good sources of prebiotic starch-resistant foods? So some that are really helpful could be asparagus, onion, garlic, even bananas, Jerusalem artichoke. These are some great sources of prebiotics.
Yeah. Basically, prebiotics are created when we take starches, vegetables, and we cook them. By cooking them, we are creating prebiotics. So all the good examples that Jenn gave, those create prebiotics. Any other questions?
Oh, hello, it's Vicky here. I went to a naturopath and she sent me to have a blood test to find out what causes inflammation in my body, what type of foods. And it showed that the biggest inflammatory response I got was from turmeric, which is meant to be an anti-inflammatory. And so should I totally avoid that? Like, does the blood test actually, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you remember if you did live blood or dry blood?
Fresh blood. Yeah.
Fresh blood. Okay. Yeah. So first of all, food sensitivity is there is no false positive. There is false negative. So if it's fresh blood, it means that there is immune response to turmeric. And I understand. Okay. I actually have one client that had a high sensitivity to turmeric, which means that the turmeric, maybe it helps reducing the inflammation, but it causing inflammation by itself. So what I recommend is to avoid turmeric for a certain time, for at least three months, until you repair your intestine, until you repair your immunity in your gut, and then try to get it. Now, you try to get it, first of all, in small amounts. It doesn't mean that you cannot eat turmeric in your life. Food sensitivity is not, it's very different from food allergy. The reaction is completely different. It means that you may be able to get turmeric in small amount and not very frequent. So what I do with my clients with food sensitivity, I first of all get them into a point that I do food sensitivity. I will first of all do a cleansing with them, just like very non-sensitive food they can eat, the food that they don't have any reaction to, up to 1.5 LRI, which is the level reaction index, and then for 2 weeks I will strengthen their immunity in the gut, and after 3 months, I will start introduce them to foods that they have sensitivity, and I will start with small portions. And then when the body is very clean, the reaction will be almost immediate. So we will find out the right portion, the right amount that they can consume, and how frequent they can eat this food. So again, turmeric is very healthy, but for some people it can be it can damage sensitivity. In my case, I'm sensitive to lettuce. Yes.
Thank you very much. That was helpful.
You're welcome, Vicky. Yeah, so there is a question about sources for collagen. Jenn, do you want to take it? You mentioned the bone broth.
Yeah, absolutely. But especially for some of you who might be vegetarian, also legumes, eggs, poultry, any kind of fish is also really helpful, and dairy are really high in collagen. Yeah.
If you eat fish, one way to do is maybe it will sound odd, but to cook fish bones. Cook the fish bones, make a stew, make a soup out of it, and then filter it out, and then drink the water. That's a great source for collagen.
Ricky, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, that's okay. So I'm curious about the difference. So I did food sensitivity testing with 2 different labs, and I believe one was fresh blood and the other was dry. And there was like mixed results. So I'm really curious as to what the difference is between fresh blood and dry blood results.
Yeah, so dry blood is basically, it's a memory. It's the IgG, it's the memory of the immune system. So if, for example, you didn't eat something for 3 months, 4 months, you will not be seen sensitive for this food, even though in fresh blood you will see sensitive. Fresh blood, basically the way it works, they will take the fresh blood, they will put it in containers with the chemical or with the food itself, and they will wait for the immune response, the immediate immune response, because the blood is alive, because there is alive immunity. So I personally prefer to do fresh blood because it's more accurate, because regardless whether you ate this food or didn't eat this food for a long time, the immunity will still respond. It's not a memory of the immunity. So that's why I would choose the accuracy of the fresh blood is higher than dry blood.
Very interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ricky, somebody was asking about how they can make their own bone broth.
Okay, yeah, so
I have an excellent bone broth. You make it all the time, so I wanted you to
yes.
this one.
Yeah, so I in person make bone broth, and I have my recipe in my website. What I do, I love mushrooms and fungus. I add reishi mushroom to my bone broth, so it will even boost more the immunity. So you can go to my website, it's here on the slide, and then there is recipes, and I have a recipe, the very basic recipe there. I recommend to add mushrooms there, at least the reishi mushrooms is great for to boost the immunity. I cook my bone broth for 48 hours, but it's the key important thing is where you get the bones from. And I recommend to get bones which are grass-fed and organic. So you want to make sure that you have the good collagen inside, and the animal ate healthy and was healthy, so you don't get anything that you don't want to get into your body. That's where I get. If you live in my area, which is San Francisco Bay Area, you can contact me later and I will send you a contact where I get my bones from.
Another question, is Vital Proteins good? I'm assuming that's the brand Vital. Yeah, that's a good source. I've actually used that one myself. It's really important though that you're not consuming it by itself, because that can be directly very harsh on the gut. So if possible, mix it in with smoothies. And again, whole food foods are more is what the gut prefers. So if possible, try to incorporate more whole foods before you resort to collagen powders. But if you are not able to get collagen through any other food sources, then I would definitely recommend a good protein collagen powder, and Vital is definitely a good one.
Yeah, agree. Any other questions?
I had a question about hemorrhoids. So let's see, I have regular bowel movements, but I strain a lot. And so I get hemorrhoids. And even though outside of having a strain, the bowel movements are actually pretty good. So I was wondering what you could suggest. And I've tried so many different fibers, like increasing my fiber intake, but sometimes it makes it worse.
Yeah. Do you have any thyroid dysfunction?
Not that I'm aware of. I had hypothyroid at one point, but then it supposedly was back in range.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah. So that can be caused from many reasons. One reason is if your muscles are not strong enough after giving birth, or so you don't have constipation. We can take it offline if you want.
Okay.
We can discuss this in more details. Yeah, contact me and I'll talk to you about it.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Yeah, what good brand of aloe vera? Yeah, it's a very very good question. Yes, so there are several brands. However, it's very tough to find one which doesn't have any chemicals inside with aloe vera. The best way, if you try to get aloe vera local from someone who makes the aloe vera in your area, that's the best way to get aloe vera. I need to search it out because I just don't have it on top of my head. One good brand of aloe vera, but aloe vera, a good aloe vera brand is very tricky thing, especially depends on where you are located. Jen, do you have any good brand?
That's a good question. I usually just get mine from Trader Joe's organic. But yeah, it is very hard to find some like clean sources of aloe vera. One thing I will say about aloe vera though is I strongly recommend that you take it at night before you go to bed, because when we sleep is where we are repairing and healing the most, and so that's where you'll get like the most optimal benefits from your aloe vera juice. So yeah, drink it before you go to sleep.
Yeah, shoot me an email if I didn't. I will respond you with few brands. I just don't have. I have one. I just don't have it on top of my head. Sorry about that.
Do you know Pitaya Foods, the frozen aloe vera cubes? Do those ring a bell?
No, yeah, that's not the one that I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah, is aloe vera juice good? In terms, well, aloe vera. So aloe vera juice from the grocery store is not as good as the aloe vera that we want to heal our body, because it has some sugar sometimes, because it needs to be tasty. A good aloe vera shouldn't be tasty. Let's start it that way. Aloe vera is very good for healing the gut, but if it's too sweet, then it's probably not the right one. All right, so we are on our time. Thank you very much, guys. Feel free to contact us, and please go ahead and fill our survey. Our next presentation will be around a month from now, and it will be about hormone imbalance and the gut. Join us, fill the form if you want to join us next time. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jenn, for joining.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.